Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
The people of our country are sick and tired of the breakdown of law and order, and they in turn then, in my judgment, would tell the police enforce the law.
It is time for an honest look at the problem of order in the United States.
And to those who say that law and order is a code word for racism, there and here is a reply. Our goal is justice. Justice for every American.
Hello. I am mobilizing all available federal resources, civilian and military, to stop the rioting and looting, to end the destruction and arson, and to protect the rights of law-abiding Americans, including your Second Amendment rights. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them.
We're winning, though. Happy Friday. It's Friday, you bastards. Oh, thank God. Phew. Wow, this week was like, whoa. And last week, next week, hot tub and a beer called Corona by choice. So we're winning. There's so much winning. Honestly, no. I know everybody's like, but it's so... I understand, but I want you to take in the victories. I want you to understand the things that have already happened. The Louisville Metro Council has banned no-knock warrants with Breonna's law. Breonna Taylor, for those of you who are just so cluster-effed because things just happen so fast, Breonna Taylor was an EMT. She just had her 27th birthday. Of course, she did not live to see it, because she was sleeping while black in Louisville, Kentucky. The police executed, plainclothes police, by the way, and this is an important little feature of this story. Plainclothes police executed a no-knock warrant on her home and shot her while sleeping. She was sleeping 8 times and killed her. Her boyfriend thought that this was a home invasion and he was a legal gun owner. And he fired warning shots. Didn't even fired warning shots. They arrested him. They arrested her boyfriend, who had placed a 911 call and said somebody had just broken in and his girlfriend was laying dead on the floor. Obviously, now they know the truth. The boyfriend has been released. But, I mean, you were terrorized. You were, your girlfriend was murdered in front of your freaking face, and you are the one that gets arrested. This is a sad but common story in race relations in the United States of America. I think everybody can remember 1 or 2 of those. But they just passed the banning of no-knock warrants with Breonna's law. New York City today, New York State, more than New York City, New York State today, Governor Cuomo has done 2 things. He signed a law for police reform, and he's issued an executive order separate from the law that the legislature passed, giving every city, every town in New York State until next April to come up with their plan for reform of their police, their sheriff's department, their policing reform by April, or lose state funding for their police forces. So let's take a moment and let's recognize that we are winning and that we've had victories.
We're not going to fund police agencies in this state that do not look at what has been happening, come to terms with it, and reform themselves. We're not going to be, as a state government, subsidizing improper police tactics. We're not doing it. And this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to sign an executive order today. We'll require local governments and police departments all across the state, about 500, to develop a plan that reinvents and modernizes police strategies and programs in their community. They must formulate a plan. They have to address the use of force by police officers, crowd management, community policing, bias awareness, de-escalation, restorative justice, community-based outreach. They have to have a transparent citizen complaint disposition procedure. So if you make a complaint, it's not just yelling out the window. You find out what happened to that complaint. They should talk about appropriate equipment, what's not appropriate equipment, and any other issue that that community believes is relevant. That discussion has to happen with the community participants in the room. That plan then has to be enacted into local law. Every city, every county. It has to be done by April 1. If it's not done by April 1, and if it's not passed, they're not going to be eligible for state funding. Oh! Period.
Yay! That's a good one. And then he followed that up with an executive order, with a bill signing of a piece of legislation.
The New York State Legislature has quickly passed the most aggressive reforms in the nation. I'm going to sign those bills in a moment. 58 reforms, so there's transparency. We're banning chokeholds, Attorney General Special Prosecutor, ending false race-based 9/11 reports. I want to applaud the leaders who have done great work. These are tough times to be in government. There's a lot of issues, a lot of crises, a lot of demands, and they got it done, and they got it done quickly. I want to thank the bill sponsors who have done a great job and actually came to resolution, and I want to applaud them. I also want to applaud the advocates who have been fighting for this for years. I can't tell you how many meetings I've had, how many rallies they put on, how many events Reverend Sharpton put on, keeping the message out there, insisting, advocating, protesting, demonstrating, which results in today and the change we're making today. Oh!
So there's victories here. New York State, that's awesome. I mean, this has been going on a really stinking long time. The idea that the Tulsa major in the Tulsa police force yesterday said, oh, we should be killing more black people. We only kill 24% of the people that we encounter, and we should be killing more black people. And then you look at other southern states like Kentucky, Louisville just passed Breonna's law, the end of no-knock warrants. By the way, Breonna Taylor, they found no drugs at all. And this was a drug warrant, and it was supposed to be executed about 10 miles away from Breonna Taylor's house. Yeah, it was all a big, stupid mistake, and she's dead now. So, there's a lot of progress being made, and I would say that the reason why is because here in this country, this new effort, this is not the first effort, the second effort, the third, fourth, fifth, or 20th, or 90th effort to have racial justice in this country. As we know, it's going to be, and it has been, a long process, a long, hard slog, right? But at least this particular group of young people, and that's who usually does this, are non-violent and peaceful. And the only violence that we've been treated to, the only violence that we've seen, is coming from the police. Just like on Bloody Sunday, that shocked the conscience, right? So I would say this is more like 1964 than 68.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
tear gas first started down the Commons, then the guard moved up on both sides of Taylor Hall and forced the kids off the Commons. Then one group, I don't know how many there were, 50 maybe, perhaps more, perhaps less, moved down to the practice football field.
Leave this area immediately.
And all of a sudden I heard the shooting. And then I saw people dropping to the ground, and then I fell to the ground also because I couldn't walk anymore.
So that is Kent State, all right? That's during Richard Nixon. Have you noticed the similarities between the George Wallace, the Richard Nixon, and the Donald Trump? I hope you have noticed the similarities there. And we have a choice. You know, we could have America or we could have George Wallace, Richard Nixon, and Donald Trump. You know, and we're making progress. And the reason we're making progress is the same reason that progress was made last time and the time before that, right? The times that progress is made, and this is the reason why real black history is covered up, right? This is the reason why nobody understood or really realized that Black Wall Street, the massacre, the race massacre in Tulsa, people don't realize that it actually happened. Same thing with listen, I was going to tell you that, you know, Donald Trump went to Dallas yesterday, which is a very interesting choice to talk about police reform, okay? Because Dallas is a hot spot, not of COVID, of racist policing. Dallas is a place where Michael Ramos was shot by an officer when he stood next to his car with his hands in the air, shouting that he was unarmed. And then he ducked into his car after the police started shooting beanbag rounds into him, and it hurt, and he dove into his car and he started to drive away, and then an officer pulled out a rifle and killed him. Dallas is also the place where last year, I hope I say her name right, Atitania Jefferson was shot by a white police officer through her bedroom window in Fort Worth. She was at home in her bedroom. The guy who shot her did not identify himself as a police officer. He yelled twice into her house for her to put up her hands. And then he shot her. Now, you've heard the name Botham Jean. I wonder if you remember that Botham Jean was killed by a Dallas police officer in 2018. Botham Jean was sitting on his sofa eating a bowl of ice cream. A police officer mistook him for a burglar and literally shot him through his window, too, while he was eating ice cream. Oh, no, not through his window. This is the police officer. This is that woman. That woman that stumbled home. I guess she was, you know, and she went into the wrong apartment. She's the one who shot Botham Jean, and he was eating ice cream on his sofa. Sorry. And then during her trial, she actually admitted that when she shot him, she meant to shoot him. She intended to kill him. There's another one named Xavier Ambler. Xavier Ambler was pulled over for failing to dim his headlights. Yeah, failing to dim his headlights. This is a traffic violation. The police actually followed him, and then he got scared and gave chase. The police followed him, and they tased him 4 times while he was repeatedly pleading, saying, "I have congestive heart failure." And they tased him 4 times and killed him. So this is where Donald Trump went to talk about police reform, and he decided that he would bring up the National Guard, which is what made me think of Kent State.
We are very proud of the fact that I called, I said, I'm sorry, we have to have them go in. And they went in, and it was like a knife cutting butter right through, boom. I'll never forget, you saw the scene on that road, wherever it may be, in the city,
wherever it may
Minneapolis. They were lined up, boom, they just walked straight. And yes, there was some tear gas and probably some other things, and the crowd dispersed and they went through. By the end of that evening, And it was a short evening. Everything was fine, and you didn't hear too much about that location having problems anymore. They went to other locations, and the same thing would happen. As an example, Seattle would be so easy to solve.
What?
Would be so easy to solve. We have a governor here of a great state. It's called Texas. He would solve it very easily.
Okay, there's so much ridiculously heinous stuff there. First of all, the governor of Minnesota called in the National Guard, not Donald Trump. That's number one. Number two, we found out that the 3rd precinct was burned down by a white guy, okay, who was looking to cause chaos. There is a lot of infiltration of these protests by people that want to make it look like the protesters are violent. This is why I keep saying this is more like 1964 than 68, because in 68 protesters did get somewhat violent. But in 64, when black people, when 65 was Bloody Sunday, that's the march over the Edmund Pettus Bridge. John Lewis, you've heard about that a million times. Here, I'll show it to you, because this is... The protests that were nonviolent, which are the protests we're seeing today, were the most successful ones in the history of protests. There are people who study all of this demonstration and protest and everything else. There are people who study white race riots, like the Oklahoma Tulsa massacre, the race war there, and also Axe Handle Saturday, which you're starting to hear about now in Jacksonville. Let me tell you something. Every time there's police violence on the TV, the support for the cause of civil rights, or the support for the cause for police reform, or the support for the cause against police brutality, which is typically the trifecta of what people are protesting, the American people rally around the protesters. Whenever there's chaos on the TV, like whenever there's looting or rioting or the burning of things, people rally around law enforcement. This is the reason why so much black history is buried. Axe Handle Saturday, I mean, if you wanted to see anything from, it's very hard to come by videos of it. It's very hard to come by anything about Axe, because that happened in Jacksonville, Florida, and they were so embarrassed by it that they sort of didn't report it in the newspaper. Same thing with Tulsa and the white race riots there against Black Wall Street. They just don't put it in the newspaper because public opinion goes against the people doing the violence. And here today, it's more like 64.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
In early 1965, Selma, Alabama became the site of a civil rights campaign to enable black voters to register. On Sunday, March 7th, 600 people set out for the state capitol in Montgomery, 50 miles away, hoping to gain national attention. Wallace had issued an order to prevent the march. His state troopers were waiting at the Edmund Pettus Bridge at the edge of town.
It will be detrimental to your safety to continue this march, and I'm saying that this is an unlawful assembly. You have to disperse. You are ordered to disperse, go home, or go to your church. This march will not continue.
In the beginning, I thought we would be arrested and just taken to jail. But when I saw the troopers putting on their gas masks and raising their sticks and the bullwhips, those moments when the troopers came toward us, I knew then we would be beaten.
The events of what would be called Bloody Sunday were witnessed that night by a horrified national television audience.
Dallas never intended for that violence to take place on that Sunday in Selma. His police chief lost control of himself, and what you had was a police riot.
A police riot. We're seeing more and more of those, and you see how public sentiment goes when they can see the police doing what the police do when nobody's supposed to be looking, right? That is why public sentiment has gone from not interested, it's not a problem, to oh my God, civil rights and Black Lives Matter is top of the list of things people are going to consider when voting in a few months. That's why I think this is much more like the 1964 than it is like 1972 or 1968 or any of those other years. We haven't had success. We really haven't had, people are starting to talk about Axe Handle Saturday. I don't know if you know about it. It was one of those other Black history moments that didn't get taught in school, that is buried, that is embarrassing to the locals. It's a Florida story. It's from Jacksonville. It's, it was a riot that was started by the Klan, it was the ACLU, the NAACP Youth Council. That's who it was. It was a bunch of kids. And the reason why it's always young people doing these things is because the older Blacks couldn't do it because they would have lost their jobs. So the task was always given to younger people, students, 16, 19-year-olds, like that, right? And this was no different. This was 1960 in Jacksonville, Florida. The NAACP Youth Council were facing segregated lunch counters, right, in Woolworth and other stores. And so they decided that they would have a sit-in. They would sit in at the lunch counter. And, of course, that just, irritated the crap out of the white kids and the white people who were sitting there waiting for their egg salad sandwiches and the hamburgers. And so they just got up and they stared down the Black kids on and on. Well, then all of a sudden, a group of kids who wanted to remove the Black kids, they all decided it wasn't the kids, it was the Klan decided that they would all go to the local hardware store and they would buy axe handles. And the local police started noticing everybody in downtown Jacksonville all of a sudden was walking around with axe handles. And they asked them, what's the deal with the axe handles? And of course the Klan said, we all have axes at home and they all need to be refurbished. So we all bought axe handles. And yet one of the police officers, his name was Good, he actually called his supervisor and said, something really ugly is about to happen. You better get down here. And the police didn't show up. They were going to allow the Klan to beat these kids with axe handles and do nothing. So finally, the Klan members who had all these axe handles did start beating these kids. They bashed them in the back of the head. They went after every Black person on the street, after little kids, after women. They just started beating every Black person in Black Jacksonville, because Jacksonville was very segregated, on the streets. And the police didn't show up. Finally, a bunch of young Black kids who were willing to fight back, they were called the Boomerangs. They were, like a young bunch of kids that had, like even in my neighborhood, we had, gang names, right? I don't think anybody would have known what to do if anything ever happened, like between the Jets and the Sharks. I don't know. But anyway, they had a bunch of kids called the Boomerangs, and the Boomerangs came to defend their parents, to fight. That's when the police came. So the police came and they started arresting Blacks. They started, this is the same old story. The people who are getting beat are the people who get arrested. Except that Jacksonville decided they'd bury the story. And they had a few more confrontations over the next year. This was 1960 to 1961. There were a few more confrontations because the NAACP Youth Council kept on peacefully sitting in, kept on peacefully organizing, kept on peacefully violating the segregation rules. And a year later, and this is the happy part of Axe Handle Saturday in Jacksonville, a year later, they desegregated the lunch counters. So it took a year of peaceful protest in Jacksonville. Later, after 1961, and more slowly, government parks, where blacks weren't allowed either, and schools would suddenly start following more slowly. Segregationist policies lasted for years. I could tell you that here in my neck of the woods in South Florida, there's a town that's just west of us called Belle Glade. It is black farmers. Very peaceful town, black farmers. Until 1973, Belle Glade, Florida, had segregated bathrooms and water fountains. Until 1973. Just so you know. Okay, so what does that have to do with now, Randy? Today, I was reading the local paper. There's a story that is going to blow your freaking mind. But this is why I'm hoping it's 1964.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
The men who followed this flag 150 years ago knew what it meant. Treason against their country. The death of the United States. America defeated the men who followed that flag. Those with honor surrendered and cast it aside forever. So why does it keep showing up today at events supporting Donald Trump? And why does he call the folks who carry it very fine people?
I think there's blame on both sides, but you also had people that were very fine people.
What does it say that they're all in for Trump? What does it say that he won't condemn a flag of hate, division, and losers? For us, it says this is a time for choosing America or Trump.
Unbelievable. They keep cranking them out, the Lincoln Project. And they're Republicans. They are. They're a bunch of Republicans. It's George Conway. It's Kellyanne Conway's husband, Rick Wilson, whole bunch of, elite GOP. And they just keep cranking it out. Now, let me just explain to you why I'm doing this. So it's very interesting. Donald Trump chose Dallas, where I just pointed out to you, Botham Jean was sitting eating ice cream on his sofa when a female police officer walked into his apartment and shot him on his sofa eating a bowl of ice cream. Okay. Tatiana, I should be able to say that. It's a Russian name, Tatiana. Tatiana Jefferson, she was shot through her bedroom window by police who were outside yelling to put your hands up inside her house. And she didn't do it fast enough, and they killed her. We told you about Michael Ramos, and Xavier Ambler was pulled over, chased by the cops because he got scared, and he was tased 4 times while he was saying, I can't breathe, and saying, I have congestive heart failure. Something makes me believe he had a pacemaker, and that 4 electrical currents from tasers killed him, okay? And his crime was a traffic. And this is where Trump decided to go to talk about police reform yesterday, Dallas, okay? Very interesting. Then he says that the Republican National Convention is going to be moved from North Carolina because they will enforce social distancing because they're having a spike in COVID cases. And so he's going to move it to Jacksonville, which made people who understand Florida and or the civil rights movement and or lunch counter, the whole desegregation effort that was made in the South, immediately thought of Axe Handle Saturday, right? And wanted to tell that story. And now he's going to have a rally, his first rally in the age of COVID, where, by the way, I'm sure you heard, you have to sign a health waiver. When you get your ticket to the Trump rally in Tulsa on Juneteenth, no less, you have to sign a waiver saying that if you get COVID, you will hold harmless the Trump the Trump campaign, the Trump Inc. campaign, the center, the BOK center, where you have to sign a waiver saying you won't sue them if you get COVID and die. Seriously. But Tulsa, obviously, the place where Black Wall Street was set ablaze in 1921 for the crime of succeeding, not secession, but succeeding, for the crime of being a upper middle class black community. That's that's what now both the Jacksonville move and the race war in Tulsa, these are buried incidents. These are incidences that were not covered in the local newspapers in their time because of what I keep trying to stress, and I think is working, that the peaceful protesters, that people who do sit-ins or people who take the brunt of the rubber bullets and the pepper balls and the water cannons in their day, that the American people don't like to see the police brutalizing its own citizens. And this is all we've seen, that and interlopers causing chaos in otherwise peaceful protests. Yes, there were some kids who walked through broken glass windows, and I did see a woman in Target also take 2 lamps. And I said to you, at least she had home improvement on her mind. She was trying to make her living room better. But yes, that happened. So if you were outraged at the fact that Target was looted, why are you not outraged that all of these people I'm telling you about were brutalized by police officers? Is it because, I was going to care about black lives, I was going to care about police brutality, but then, that kid stole a pair of sneakers or that woman took 2 lamps from Target, and I just, I changed my mind. That looting and rioting is not going on, as you now know. They're like in their 17th day of protesting. And they're still out there. Now, if you watch propaganda news, if you watch Fox, you would think, and this is why that clip of Trump in Dallas saying that the National Guard cut through those people in Minneapolis like butter, only to find out that the guy who set the 3rd Precinct on fire, and God knows who else was with him, was a white kid, trying to create chaos, and that he had stolen all kinds of police objects to make himself look like a police officer, right? He dressed himself up as a police officer with a scanner and the police uniform, and he put masking tape around the back of the uniform and wrote his name. I mean, it's just so sad. But anyway, so you had these interlopers, you had these agitators, you had these accelerators, you had these white supremacists causing chaos to make it look bad. We've seen enough video of them, this guy with the black umbrella that was originally bashing the windows on the Target was, we still don't know who that guy is, but he was dressed all in black and he was carrying a black umbrella so that the video cameras couldn't capture his, the guy was obviously trying to cause chaos. So we have all that, right? But we have Donald Trump going to all these places where all of this stuff happened on the dates that it happened. So Juneteenth is the day that he's going to have his first rally in Tulsa. That is the day that Black Wall Street, that is the day that the Emancipation Proclamation was read aloud, right, freeing the slaves. And June 1st is the anniversary, I don't know how else to say it, of burning down Black Wall Street, which was bad. He's going to go to Jacksonville on Axe Handle Saturday. And then he went to Dallas, where there's so much police brutality. But then I started thinking about this because people are, saying, do you think Stephen Miller is doing this because he's such a white supremacist and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe it is just so possible that you can't go anywhere in the United States on any day and not find it to be a day where black people were either beaten or shot or destroyed by police. I don't know. I'm pretty okay on Black history. I got a lot to learn, no doubt about it, because so much of it is hidden and buried. But let me show you my local newspaper today, okay? This is the Palm Beach Post. It's a mullet wrapper, basically. Howard likes to read it, so we get it. And there's a columnist. I keep telling you, his name's Frank Cherubino. And so to read him is worth the price of a subscription, right? He's great. All right, so this is today's paper. This is how it reads. Lori Lavieri said in a Saturday statement that she has removed Matthew Petty, the city's fire chief, and fired Debbie Coles-Dobey, the city public's arts manager. Why? After a public art project based on photographs replaced the images of two black former department chiefs with white faces, city manager Lori Lavieri removed Matthew Petty, the city's fire chief, and fired Debbie Coles-Dobey, the city public arts manager. The arts manager said she was pressured to white out the black faces in this artwork by the fire chief and his staff. Literally, they erased from this artwork the city's first and only black female firefighter and deputy chief after 24 years of service.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I'm a black woman.
Yeah.
I'm a mom. And, and you've talked about it, but we haven't seen you come out and be that consoler in this instance. And the tweets.
Yeah.
When the looting starts, the shooting starts. Why those words?
So, that's an expression I've heard over the years, and it
Do you know
really
where it comes
means
from?
I think Philadelphia, the mayor of Philadelphia, from what
it comes from 1967. I was about 18 months old at the time. Everybody's shooting Wiki because they probably got it wrong. But it was from the chief of police in Miami. He was cracking down, and he meant what he said. And he said, I don't even care if it makes it look like brutality, I'm going to crack down when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Yeah.
That frightened a lot of people when you tweeted
Well, it
that.
also comes from a very tough mayor, who I might have been police commissioner at the time, but I think mayor of Philadelphia named Frank Rizzo. And he had an expression like that. But I've heard it many times from, I think it's been used many times. It means two things, very different things. One is if there's looting, there's probably going to be shooting, and that's not as a threat, that's really just a fact, because that's what happens. And the other is if there's looting, there's going to be shooting. They're very different meanings.
Oh, interesting.
No, there's very different meanings.
Oh, interesting. Harris Faulkner, who is a black woman, works at Fox News, plays the propaganda game very well over at Fox News, finally got freaked out by Donald Trump and confronted him with the when the looting starts, the shooting starts tweet, and said, that came from a Florida, Miami racist mayor who engaged in an awesome amount of police brutality against poor black residents who did nothing at all in a place called Liberty City. Oh, no, I didn't get it from him. I got it from Frank Rizzo, a Philadelphia mayor, a strong Philadelphia mayor. Frank Rizzo, for those of you who don't know who he is he's been totally rejected by Philadelphia. So much so that there was a statue of him that the current mayor of Philadelphia said he was going to take it down because this man ran on a platform of vote white. That's Frank Rizzo. Frank Rizzo was the police commissioner from 68 to 71, and then he was the mayor from 72 to 80. And he would raid LGBT nightclubs, gay clubs. He would just brutalize the African American population there, and then ran on vote white. He was such an abuser and such a bigot and such a racist that the Department of Justice in 1979 opened up a civil rights lawsuit against the police department for shooting nonviolent citizens and beating handcuffed people. That's who he thinks it came from. And he's quoting very strong. Don't you get what this man is running on? Don't you see what he is doing? And it's working in weird little places. Like I said, I was reading our newspaper today. You were like, well, this is all old stuff. No. Today in our newspaper here in Palm Beach County, okay? I live in West Palm Beach. The city that I'm sitting in is called Del Rey. The city next to that one that I have to drive through every day is a nice, pleasant town, sleepy little town with a good mall in it called Boynton Beach. For those of you who have parents here, you know it's like it's South Florida. It's Boynton Beach. In Boynton Beach, they had to fire the fire chief and an art director who works for the city for an art installation of former firemen and fire chiefs because there were 2 black people in the artwork. One of the people was Latasha Clemens. She was Boynton Beach. She was born here, raised here, and she was the city's first and only black female firefighter and worked her way up to deputy chief. They whited her face. It's the opposite of blackface. They put white paint over her face on purpose. The art director did it on the orders of the fire chief. It also erased the face of a man named Glenn Joseph, the former fire chief, and the first black firefighter in Boca Raton. It was an art installation. And they whited out their faces so you couldn't tell what color they were or identify them. This is right now. This just happened. You know, I mean, you just erase everything. They just want to erase everything having to do with black excellence. They just want to erase everything having to do with white brutality. They just want to erase everything having to do with police brutality. They want to erase everything having to do with slavery or Jim Crow, which was like the most brutal beyond, listen, slavery, everyone gets it. Everyone understands. Wow, right? But do you understand how violent Jim Crow was? Do you understand that what happened to people? And do you understand that in the face of all of that, the protests were peaceful? The protests were nonviolent. Sitting on a bus or sitting at a lunch counter or walking over a bridge. And it got your head bashed in by an axe handle or trampled on by police horse, and it still does today. It still does today. There's a video. I used to live. I think I lived all over Texas. I lived in Odessa, Texas. Odessa is a twin city like Minneapolis, St. Paul, except it's tumbleweed town, right? But it's Midland, Odessa. So like George Bush is from Midland. That's where the rich people live, right? Or the oil field owners, put it that way. And the oil field workers, They live in the town I lived in. They lived in Odessa. Anyway, this happened in Midland. This is really, really vile, okay? There was a kid who, I saw the whole video. I'm not going to play you the whole thing, but I saw the whole video. They said he ran a stop sign. Well, I saw the whole video. He didn't run. His name is Tay. He did not run the stop sign. I saw him stop, signal, and turn right. He was going to his grandma's house, which was 2 blocks away from the stop sign, where the police decided he didn't stop long enough for them, for their taste. And so they turned on their lights, and he got scared, and he only had 2 blocks to go to get to grandma's house. And I guess he decided, I need to get to my grandma's house. He was terrified. You can see in this video how freaking terrified he is. And they come out of the car, guns a-blazing. His hands are up in the air, and then he hits his knees, gets down on the ground. And the guns, like, they called for backup units. There were so many guns trained on this kid. And this just happened, right? And so he knows the stories of George Floyd. He knows the stories of, what happened in with Botham Jean. Right? He knows. He knows where he lives. He knows what's going on. He gets to the house of his 90-year-old grandma. And they come at him with guns a-blazing and screaming and yelling at him. And his grandma finally comes out of the house. She's 90. To stand next to her grandson. And they take down the grandson. And I don't know if she's overwhelmed or if they knocked her down or what. But you'll see she falls on top of her grandson. And she's wailing. I mean, they turn this into... Now, I want you to answer this question for yourself, white people. How many times have you run a stop sign? He didn't do that either. And what happened to you if a police officer saw you do that? Did you see a gun?
RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, here's the video of what happened to Tay Anders, who the police believed blew a stop sign. He didn't. He didn't. But this is what happened for not pausing long enough for at a stop sign.
Stop me! Why you stop me? Tell me why you stop me. Hey, tell me why you stop me.
Get back!
What's your reason to stop me?
Show us your hands right now.
Show us your hands. His hands are up.
Listen. Listen.
He's obviously terrified. Tell me why you stopped me. That's him pulling into Grandma's house. He still has his signal on.
Driver, exit the vehicle now.
If there's another unit available, can we get someone, please?
This is a traffic stop.
Step back, dude. Come back here. Just walk back. You're not...
Why you stop me? Why you stop me?
Okay, walk back. Walk back.
Why you stop me? Why you stop me? Put your guns down. Put your guns down. I'm scared.
Look at all this.
No, put the guns up. I'm scared. I'm scared.
I'm
He
scared.
don't got
I'm
nothing
scared.
on him.
I'm scared. I'm scared.
Why the Stay right there, baby. Stay right there. No.
Wes, is there anyone else in the vehicle?
That's his grandma, 90 years old.
I can't see. I can't tell. Okay, let's go. Come on.
Go. Watch the vehicle.
I got hands. Watch the vehicle.
What is this? And Grandma's down.
I just want to make sure I move up and on first. Okay, let's get him up and move on. Get him on.
He did. Honestly, I would ask you to please just go ahead and Google Ty T-Y-E Anders and watch the whole video. You will see he did stop at the stop sign in the first place, and he did turn his turn signal on and made a right turn and went 2 blocks to Grandma's house and put his signal on to turn into her driveway. That being said, this is a traffic stop. A traffic stop. And the kid's been arrested for evading, right? For not following commands, not following command. Yeah, I got news for you. On the Pettis Bridge, they didn't follow commands either because they told him disperse, go back to your church. And they didn't. They just stood there. And that's why they were trampled on the Edmund Pettis Bridge on Bloody Sunday. I mean, listen, this is so ridiculous. And for Donald Trump to invoke not only the racist white mayor of Miami, who did say when the looting starts, the shooting starts, even though nothing was going on in Miami at all, and he turned Miami into a bloody mess with his police. But this Frank Rizzo dude in Philly, in 1967, Frank Rizzo was appointed the police commissioner in Philadelphia. He led a phalanx of officers to a school where a bunch of students were protesting in favor of a Black history curriculum. Ooh. What happened next is the most unbelievable scene of mayhem you probably... But Rizzo told those cops, go get their black asses. Go get them. And the results there were brutal. You had dozens of students beaten. It was a complete police riot. A cop chased 2 black girls right outside of the window of the administration building that were looking out the window and started to beat the crap out of them with a nightstick. He had this habit of raiding gay clubs. He had this habit of handcuffing people for no reason and letting his police officers beat them. And this is the guy Donald Trump is, invoking when Harris Faulkner says, but you're quoting this Miami Mayor Headley. Oh, no, I was quoting Frank Rizzo. And she goes, interesting, because she doesn't know one damn thing about this. Not one damn thing. And I got news for you. Rizzo's statue was scheduled to come down, but the protesters in Philly brought it down. It's down now. It's down now. And you know who this is another little factoid. You know who commissioned that statue of Frank Rizzo? You might be surprised. You know Michael Smerconish on CNN? I hate to do this to you, Michael, but one day I was invited on CNN to debate Michael Smerconish, and I kind of know this history, and I totally ripped him an ass. This was a lot of years ago, a lot of water under the bridge, whatever. He now kind of sees the error of his ways. He's moderated himself. And one day, he was saying something. He reads his tweets. He was. I don't know if he has a show there anymore, but he was reading his tweets on CNN. He was doing weekends. And I was cleaning the house, and I had him on. And he was, saying, pretty much, I'm smart. I want respect. He's being all Fredo-ish and stuff. And I felt bad because I had beaten him verbally on CNN about 10 years ago. So I tweeted at him because I knew he was looking at his Twitter feed. And I said, don't worry about it. Water under the bridge. I respect you. Because people were saying some really nasty crap to him. And he read it on CNN. He said, you'll never know how much that means to me. Well, the reason why I attacked him in the first place is because Michael Smerconish used to be a political consultant, and he ran Frank Rizzo's campaign. See? It's not for no reason that I pick beefs with people on the TV. Also, the person who commissioned the statue of Frank Rizzo in 1999 was Ed Randell. Democrats know who that is. So we don't have clean hands on this either. And by we, I mean the Democrats, because where am I going to go? I mean, obviously, if there was no electoral college, I'd be an independent like most of America now. But these are all, it's not dog whistles anymore. These are people that are known to white supremacists. These are people, George Wallace is known to white supremacists, okay? It's so funny because I'm watching the news and they're telling me, Lady Antebellum feels really bad, about the slavery thing. And the antebellum South is slave-owning Southern culture. So they changed the name of their band to Lady A. And HBO Max has said something about they're not going to show Gone with the Wind, or if they do show it, they're going to show it with, video footage to put it in context and stuff like that. I'm like, don't you realize how many, like, bands have been, like, super racist and we all sang along? I mean, what is this new self-examining? I mean, this is, like, really interesting. This is where it goes off the rails. You have clear cases of police brutality. You have clear cases of, traffic stops that involve 4 units and a guy dies at the hands of police for not dimming his lights. But you're going to rename bands?
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, everybody watching us on Free Speech TV, this is our summer pledge drive, and we are smack in the middle of it right now. And obviously, we have to do this because Free Speech TV does not take any corporate money. It also doesn't, it's a not-for-profit. It doesn't make a profit. All it does is sustain itself, and it does that by sustaining members. It does that by people who do monthly recurring donations and by people who give during the pledge drives. So if you've never done it before, I just want to tell you thank you very much for even thinking about it. If I can make it, go ahead and do it today. That would be great. All you got to do is go to freespeech.org, freespeech.org/donate if you like the slashy. If you don't, just go to freespeech.org. And if you were able to do, $20, we'll send you a Randi Rhodes Show bumper sticker. For $20, you could also choose an I'm voting Are You car magnet, so you don't have to soil your bumper. I like the magnets. I really like them a lot. There's a lot of things. $50 will get you a Just Effin' Vote canvas tote bag. Those are very popular. A Randi Rhodes signed hat is available for you. Social distancing kits, face masks. The Randi Rhodes Show mug is also. I don't even have one of those. You do? Yeah, they're nice. They really are nice. They're black with like a blue interior, and they're double branded with Randi Rhodes and Free Speech TV. Very nice. They made those for us, so thank you very much to the staff over there. Anyway, just go ahead and go online to freespeech.org or dial the phone. There's an idea. 877-378-8669. It is right there on your screen right now. I've noticed that when you give, they sometimes put your name on the scrolly crawly at the bottom. So you might even get your name on the TV today. 877-378-8669. And hopefully you'll get your name on the scrolly on the bottom, and you'll feel complete. So thank you very much. I appreciate you. Mark in New York.
Hello. Hang on just a second. Let me get you off speaker.
It is that time of day when we go to the phones. Yes.
Yes, I know. I sent you a link earlier. I don't know if you got it, to an article in the New York Times today, which you did not have in your homework, about the newly adopted Republican platform, which is word for word the 2016 platform.
Yeah,
and is chock full of condemnations of the sitting president.
Condemnation?
Yes, this is the 2016 platform. So they're condemning Obama, but they've readopted the whole thing for 2020. So it's got things in it like here: the survival of the internet as we know it is at risk. Its gravest peril initiates in the White House, where the current occupant has launched a campaign.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's
expired. It's expired like sour milk. Yeah. It's curdled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But these lazy, stupid dummies have just said, yeah, we'll run on that again. It worked before.
Yeah.
So just reading through it, there's just such timely stuff here, though. Things about where did that one go? About dividing the country, about rewarding our enemies, and
is the Ukraine stuff in there?
Yeah. It's all there. It's all there. It's all just so timely and so applicable.
Listen, they know they're going to lose. This is the frightening part, okay? Here's the really scary part. The scary part.
They're going to lose, and they really probably don't care.
The scary part is that Donald Trump knows he's going to lose, and he is acting out. The scarier part is going to be after this blowout of an election, and everybody, it cannot be close. If it's close, he will contest it. We will go through absolute abject hell, okay? He will contest it and contest it and contest it and contest it. And come January 20th, we won't have a president because his term expires. And if we haven't picked ourselves a president because he's contesting an election, okay, and January 20th comes and we don't have a president, then Nancy Pelosi is the president of the United States. I just want people to understand this, okay? That is that's what we're looking at. So it's got to be a blowout. But between the vote on the 3rd of November and the swearing in on January 20th, Donald Trump will still be president.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a scary time.
Exactly.
That's going to be a very scary
So
time.
let's not obsess over their laziness over the platform. It tells you that they don't think they're going to win anyway. So what?
They really don't give a crap.
So what are we in store for now? If this man loves using the 82nd Airborne and he loves using, the military, what in the world are we looking at if he believes that he doesn't want to go?
Well, Biden spoke on this subject yesterday, and he's prepared for the legal challenges. So, by the way, the Republicans, they've put aside.
Okay, so what is in the homework? What is
he said, though?
What is in the homework is an interview with I think his name is Mark Lawrence. Said he's an attorney who's very familiar with election battles, and he isn't sure that our Constitution was built for a challenge the likes of which Trump is about to level. And the only advice that this lawyer has for us is don't even let it be close. So when I say that, I'm talking to states like Florida. I'm talking to states like Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. I'm talking to states, swing states. I'm talking about people who have finally realized that this man is destroying democracy, destroying our country. Literally, we are the laughing stock of the universe. We have the most amount of COVID cases on this planet. We have the most deaths from this virus than any other country. You have countries that had 3 people die. But not us. Oh, no, not us. Now you got Arizona, Arkansas spiking, freaking out. You got hospitals inundated. Arizona's worried that they're going to run out of ICU beds. This man is an abject failure, okay? He is a disaster. He is a disgrace. He doesn't care about anybody but himself, and everybody deep down knows it. I think the only constituency he has left is old, angry, white Southern men.
And the Boogaloo Boys.
And the Boogaloo Boys. Because their lives are so empty.
Mm-hmm.
Their lives have become, like them and a keyboard. That's their lives. They don't have lives. And at least the hate gives them something to look forward to in the morning. It gives them a feeling. They're dead inside. All these people, they're just searching around for a cause. That's all. Hate hate is not as strong as love. I think everybody who's been in love knows that. But hate is something that can take you over. And you know who wins when that happens? The person who's encouraging you. They get all the power. They steal it from you. And you lose. The only time haters win is when you hate them back, because it takes up so much time and effort. It saps all your joy. But, that's who these guys are. They're empty. They're just empty.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Donald Trump, too scared to face the people, too weak to lead. The nation marches for justice. And like a deer in the headlights, he's paralyzed with fear. He doesn't know what to do, so he hides in his bunker. Then he's afraid he looks too weak, so he has tear gas and flash grenades used on peaceful protesters, just for a photo op. The cries for justice grow. Where is Donald Trump? Too scared to face the people. Too small to meet the moment. Too weak to lead.
It's good. The ads are great. They really are. And they used to really suck. They used to be like really heinous. But there's so much material. And didn't I say that if anybody who wanted to run for president at all wanted my library of BS that things and horrible things and damaging things and lies that don't, I would give them any of my video clips, and that I would hope they would put them all together and just run on stuff he said. And the failure to produce anything. Must be infrastructure week again. Nothing. We got nothing. And can I just this is also in the homework. This is one of the greatest articles ever. It is about the actual looting, the real thievery, the gigantic, enormous, ginormous $500 billion plus that was stolen in the PPP from the Small Business Administration and given to 300 publicly listed, publicly traded companies. The Ruth's Chris, yes, they gave it back. Some of them gave it back because they were so embarrassed that they got outed. And yesterday, Steve Mnuchin went up to testify. I think he's got, I don't know what he's got. Does he have tardive dyskinesia or Tourette's? I don't know. But he said that he is not going to release the information about who got $660 billion out of the PPP. He's just not going to release any of the information, data, nothing. So these people are going to get away with gigunda looting. But a kid who took a pair of sneakers, oh, well, that made you not care about Black Lives Matter. You know, that's racism. That's working in your brain. I just want to let you know. If you came to that conclusion. Joe on Long Island.
Hi, Randy.
Where are you?
Taking my call. I'm in Long Island.
It's
Center Reach.
Where?
Center Reach.
Center Reach. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early button of the island.
Yeah.
I called because I wanted to show the difference here. In 2015, Chicago police gunned down Laquan McDonald.
Laquan.
Shooting him 16 times. Laquan McDonald.
Who was walking? He was. They said, he was coming at them with a knife. He was walking away.
He was walking. They hid that video for 3 years.
Yes, they did.
They hid it for 3 years, and then you got Dylan Roof in North Carolina. Decides he's going to go to a prayer study. Kills 9 people. All right, and what do the police do? They drive him to Burger King.
Right.
Because he was hungry.
That's right. And
what
you know,
and
please, and I'm collecting a ton of videos. I just want them. I just want them for my own, edification. And I want them, if I ever do a project, I'm going to use all these things that I collected, okay? And one of the really gross ones is that a white man who was looting and, stealing and all this stuff, the police pulled him over and they gave him a cigarette, let him hang out and smoke a cigarette, right? And the peaceful protesters, they got their heads bashed in.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's racism is what that is right there, is what that is.
Racism 101.
Yeah, it is. So, yeah, we have a lot of things that are still broken. And, the reason why they're still broken is because every time we take 2 steps forward, we get a Republican that makes us take 3 steps back. And that's what happens over and over, even with the economy, boom and bust, boom and bust, boom and bust, over and over. Mm-hmm. It's just so broken. Brother David.
What, 1.5 segments to beer?
No, this is it. Last segment.
Oh, last segment. Oh, sister.
This is it. I got, not that I'm counting, but I got 5 more minutes.
Girl, and nobody deserves them more, dear. I say every morning to myself when I wake up.
Oh, the Howard one. He got me a nice fresh case of Corona Premier with no carb, like 2 carbs per. And the hot tub will be heated when I walk in the door. My backyard looks fabulous from quarantine. I just did everything. Looks so
excellent.
So good.
I love it. Sister. Quick shout out to the YouTube chat room and the Facebook streamers. You know what to do. 10 people who don't listen, it's pledge, drive, follow the leader. That's all I have to say on that.
And just follow me on Twitter because I tweet out like the best crap. Really, super good.
Yes, you really do. I love that you made the analogy to 1964 and Wallace, etc. Because here's where we're at, sister. The pandemic is only one part of this total thing, and it is a crossroads for the planet. And look where it's landed. And it feels so darn manipulated, and it feels so... Juneteenth? Really? You're going to be in Tulsa on Juneteenth? Etc. To your other question, I think it's paresis and Putin puppetry. That's just my take on what it comes out of its little tiny fingers on the tweet. I would urge anybody who still doesn't really get it, because my thing is, I have been doing this for my sanity for 2 years now. I handed one of those challenges, 10 movies in 10 days, and you just post the picture, and it meant something to you, and it just took off. And what I've noticed lately is it's more and more documentaries, and it's more and more Spike Lee films. And everybody who has that streaming service, I won't say its name, that everybody has now, should see Ava DuVernay's 13th.
Yes.
Her documentary
why
about
don't you treat yourselves, especially like Arizona, where they're staying in, and Arkansas, where you're staying in. Why don't you do like a little bit of, Ava DuVernay 13th. There's some really, really good one. The Watchmen, about the Tulsa Race Massacre. Yes. If you
anything
don't have
Spike
one
Lee.
of those, anything by Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing is always good. If you've never, there's another one on, I think it's HBO. What is the name of that one about?
When the Levees Broke.
No.
A different one.
Yeah, about the Tulsa Race Massacre. I forgot what.
Yes. I forget the name, but yes,
right?
yes.
It's on HBO.
Exactly.
There's so much good stuff right now. But if you really are, I mean, Gone with the Wind? They're pulling that? Why? What is that? I don't even understand.
They're trying to erase history. Or rewrite it. It's
I don't
like
think so. I think
not erase it, but it's like a knee-jerk reaction kind of thing.
I think HBO Max is trying to get attention because it's a new service and you have to pay extra for that. And they put Gone with the Wind on HBO Max, and so they thought, well, let's make it controversial so that we can get people over there. I swear to God, it's a marketing thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And Lady Antebellum changed their name. Listen.
Lady A. Okay.
I mean, listen, here's how stupid that is, okay? Here's how we had Dixie Chicks who were banned by a Republican president, and they called themselves Dixie Chicks, for God's sake. Whistling past Dixie is an expression about walking past the graveyards of slaves. I mean, so all of a sudden they're going to change their name, right? And then I'm thinking, okay, this is my little dirty sin. So last Friday night, I'm in the hot tub, or Saturday night, was Karen and Steve were over, and we're in the hot tub, right? And we're doing, they did shots of tequila. I'm on like my 7th beer, okay, at this point.
Atta girl.
And I put on Charlie Daniels, The South's Gonna Do It Again. Okay, that's racist. That is like and then we started downshifting into Leonard Skynyrd, Sweet Home Alabama, Where the Governor is True, which is about George Wallace. Of course, I mean, we cannot get rid of all the racism.
There'd be nothing on the air.
Oh my God.
There are still more of us than there are of them, sister, and I believe that.
But
But
I just have to say, just to balance it out, we did do, of course, on my playlist is always Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, and Straight Outta Compton. So
Straight Outta Compton. Love you always.
Thank you.
Mwah.
Mwah. All right, everybody. Keep your eyes and ears open. God only knows what is going to transpire over the weekend. But I will tell you this. The protesters have got this. They've got this. They're peaceful. They're organized as all get out. The kids get it. They're sick of it. It's always, the idea that youth have to fix it, not completely true. But this particular generation, they get it.